I'm gonna give you the 4 best exercises for defensive linemen, and we're gonna start right now. What's up, everybody? It's Dane Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is your first time to the channel and you want to be an explosive athlete, you want to get stronger, you want to be a freak on the football field, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you become a champion. So for the last decade here at Garage Strength, we've trained multiple all-state football players, multiple football players that have gone on to play in Power 5 conferences. We've worked with a starting linebacker for Penn State University, and we've worked with numerous different defensive linemen. And one of the big aspects behind training defensive linemen successfully comes down to understanding the key elements behind defensive line play. We've got to have athletes that are explosive. We've got to have football players that are going to be very, very aggressive and know how to apply their strength through hand fighting. And we've got to have defensive linemen that are going to have a very, very fast first step. So when we can start to think about those 3 key elements behind defensive lineman training, now we can start to dig deeper into what those 4 key exercises are to creating a dominant defensive lineman. Coming in at that number 4 spot, we're gonna focus on the med ball bench. So if we can think of defensive linemen coming out of their stance, we know that they've got to post up on their opponents rapidly. We know that defensive linemen that can see what their offensive linemen opponents are doing, if they can read them quickly, now when they can apply force rapidly with rapid rate of force development, and they can get into the chest of their opponents and they can swim those hands rapidly, now all of a sudden we know that the defensive linemen are going to win the battle down in the trenches. And that's a key component behind the med ball bench. If we do the med ball bench for anywhere from 5 to 6 sets for 5 to 6 reps, we're going to train that upper body on how to utilize that brute strength that we're training with maximal effort bench presses. So if we have a defensive lineman that's got a bench press of 350 to 400 pounds, and then we're going to drop down and we use the med ball bench, maybe we use a 25-pound med ball, and we're bench pressing that as explosively as possible. Now that's going to transfer over to the field. We're going to get good handwork, and we're going to post up on the offensive linemen and dominate them. Coming in at that number 3 spot, we're going to have the Paws single leg squat. So what I like to utilize this for is to teach our defensive linemen how to be explosive from a very deep position. We know down in the trenches that the lower man can win almost every single battle. And that's one of the key components behind that Paws single leg squat, is that now we have our linemen deep down in the pad. They're going to have a 90-degree hip position. They're going to have a 90-degree knee joint position, and they're going to pause there, but we're going to teach them how to understand pre-flex. So they're going to sit there, they're going to pause for a very brief contraction, but they're going to be squeezing isometrically while they're down in that deep position, and they're going to drive fast up off of that blue pad up into the top position of that single leg squat. So the main point here is they're going to improve their mobility in their hips so that they can play a little bit lower, but they're also going to increase their rate of force development from a unilateral position. That's going to carry over to big time domination down on the line. Coming in at that number 2 spot, we're going to utilize the Duffin Row. And this might sound a little strange, but one of the reasons why I love to utilize the Duffin Row is because it teaches the athlete how to coordinate their trunk with their upper body. If we can think about defensive linemen, there's a lot of pushing, there's a lot of pulling going on at the exact same time. In a Duffin Row, we're going to post up on the bench press, and we're going to have one knee down and the other leg is going to be fully extended. And what ends up happening is, now as we're rotating, or as we're doing the one arm row, our body almost wants to rotate all over the place. But that's where the strength component comes into play. We're going to try and prevent that rotation of the trunk, and we're going to stabilize the trunk. We're going to create that dynamic trunk control, and we're going to work on that single arm strength in the row. And this is going to carry over to being able to control our opponents from a rotational perspective, because our trunk and our abs are going to be much stronger. I recommend doing an exercise like Duffin Rows, 5 sets of 7 to 9 reps on each arm. So before we get into that number one exercise for dominating on the defensive line, we put together all of these protocols inside of our lineman-based training, and you can click on the link down below in our description. So that number one movement is gonna be the one box power snatch, and that box height should be about 7 inches. So if you don't have boxes to put the bumper plates on, utilize actual bumper plates as your boxes. And the reason why I like to have a one box position is that's gonna raise that butt just a little bit higher. That's gonna create a little bit steeper shin angle as we commence that lift off of the boxes. And one of the big key components, remember back to the elements that we talked about in the beginning of this video. The key element is having that fast first step. The power snatch is going to train that rapid rate of coordination. It's gonna train rate of force development at a very high level, and that's going to lead to that fast first step. So if we can train our defensive linemen properly with good explosiveness from their upper body, good trunk control with the Duffin Rows, good unilateral stability, good unilateral explosiveness, and then all of a sudden we train them to rapidly coordinate as fast as possible with these power snatches, our defensive linemen are going to become absolute savages. They're gonna dominate everybody, and they're gonna conquer and have tons and tons of sacks and TFLs throughout the entire season. So if you want more information about lineman-based training, click on the link down below to pick up a program. If you want more videos, you can click on this video right here. Until next time, guys, peace.